Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 62 of the Future of Work show. Now, if you've been following us for a while, you might know that the Future of Work show is designed for conversations around ideas that are changing the world. Today is the second episode in a special series that I'm doing on AI and culture. Because all of this comes on the heels of the research that my colleague Jaspreet Bindra and I are doing on what is special about the culture of those organizations that are ahead of the curve in terms of AI implementation. And today I have a guest with me from PwC. And in our research, we were very impressed by the work that PwC has been doing in its own suite of AI tools and platforms. But before that, a little bit of background on Uncube itself. Uncube works with organizations and leaders to build leadership, competencies, and culture for the future. We do this in a number of different formats. Some of our recent projects have included redefining what leadership roles will look like in businesses over the next year, 2 years, uh, articulating what some of the new emerging competencies are going to be that are going to enable those organizations to really jump ahead of the curve. And also enabling them to make shifts in their culture so that culturally they're far more ready for the future than perhaps they were designed to be. So, with that, let's jump into the topic for today. And I'm going to bring on my guest for today, Puneet Singh. Hi, Puneet.
Hi, Shalini. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So happy to have you on the show. I have to say that when I was doing the research interviews, I was so impressed by the work that you and your team is doing. So I was just looking forward to our conversation and asking you on air some of the things that I think are top of the mind for so many people. How did you start the cell? What worked? What didn't? For an organization that's just starting out on its journey, what is it that they can learn from your experience and perhaps just jump ahead in the learning curve. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shalini, and thank you for the compliment. It's been a roller coaster ride, and hopefully, I'll be able to share some of my experiences during this journey today in this podcast.
Thank you, Puneet. So Puneet, before we start any of that, can you just share a little bit about what got you interested in AI? How did that happen?
So, I am a computer science engineer, and when I found my way into the corporate world, I was placed into PwC in my third year of engineering at the cybersecurity team. In the cybersecurity team, and then when I joined PwC full time after my uh, engineering degree, I found my way into the emerging tech team, where we were trying to utilize whatever was the emerging technology trend and trying to disrupt processes, trying to disrupt value chains, and trying to create new products. So that's one of the things that Uh, I got into, and I was playing with a lot of technology, a lot of different technologies, and kind of this mindset of disrupting existing processes grew on from then on.
Wow. So, my last guest was Professor Sam Ransbotham of Boston College, and he hosts this, globally well-known podcast, Me, Myself, and AI. And there's a
Yeah.
question that he asks all his guests right at the start. I asked it of him, but I'm going to ask you again. Uh, is how important do you think AI is going to be in all our futures? Is it just hype, or is there something real here?
Yeah, we've been asking this question like every decade now, but I think the current generation of AI is helping us do things which we thought that AI would never do, right? And we always used to demarcate these are some things that AI can do, and these are some things that humans can do. And since those boundaries are blurring, and people are realizing that and recognizing that, that's the big opportunity that we are sitting in front of today. Um, the question, is AI a hype? The idea of AI is to help people with an augmented tool that can mimic human intelligence. So I think that journey of finding a smarter assistant or creating a personal assistant which is smart enough will continue to go on. The AI will continue to become more smart, try to get closer to the human intellect, so to say, and that'll be the journey, I think. And yeah, it'll be an interesting collaboration competition with human and machines is what I feel.
I love that word, the collaboration between human and machines. Now, I know that in an earlier conversation, you were saying something about, what's similar and what's different about
Mhm.
human intelligence versus AI and particularly LLMs. Can you speak
Yeah.
some more to that?
Perfect. So the human brain is a very, very complex hardware, I would say, with 100 billion neurons, and each neuron having 10,000 or 1,000 connections to each other, which essentially means there are trillions of parameters in a human brain. uh, Now when we try to define world, even with physics, or we try to understand the world, we try to mimic it to the best of our abilities in the way that we understand the world. Now with AI, we are trying to replicate how a human mind thinks, trying to see if giving it way more data, it can act on that data, generate insights. Um, and but but I still feel, we are far from reaching the exact capabilities of a human brain. Just to put in context, right, the most powerful LLM model today is 1 trillion parameter, and probably the human brain is 100 trillion parameters. So it's not even one, like less than 1% of the compute that human brain has. Plus, it's sustainable. The energy required to run a human brain is way less than the energy required to run a large language model. So we have a very powerful, efficient system within us, and we are trying to create artificial systems that could help and augment our, living today.
That's so interesting, Puneet, because one of my earlier guests, had such a different perspective. One of the things he said was, today, if you want to know whether something's being done by a human or a machine, you can
Mhm.
tell because if the data set is large enough and if it
Mhm.
happens fast enough, it's not a human.
Mhm.
So it was just, and I know in that one dimension, I mean, in that very narrow way, that's probably
Mhm.
true.
Mhm.
But we it's just an interesting insight that he said
Yeah.
if your accuracy is much higher, if it's a large data set, if you get a response in a minute or two, you absolutely know it's not a human behind it.
I think it's the way you try to evaluate human and machine would determine the outcome. For example, can I run as fast as a car? Probably not. Then I am I losing to a car? In all
Yeah.
entirety, probably. If speed is the metric that we want to evaluate on, probably yes. But holistically, I think we are far superior in terms of the context that we have. There's a lot of things in nature that we've still not figured out. So to create artificial systems that can understand all of that is going to be a long journey. We have to discover more of humanity to understand what we have as a hardware and how that hardware works.
I really like that, Puneet, because I think what you're referring to is the multidimensionality. I think you mentioned that
Yes.
earlier as well, of
Yes.
human intelligence.
Yeah.
And while on one or two dimensions, perhaps the AI tools and platforms that you've been building are far ahead of, our own capacities. But, there's far greater multidimensionality to the human intelligence.
Yes, and that the level of multidimensionality is the comprehension power of a human, brain to today's, capacity. Just to put it on context, if we've created large language models with huge amounts of data, right? And our and we call it generative AI. But can it do original research of what has not been done in the past? What's if a pattern is not existent in data? Can it do something beyond that? Is the dimensionality that I think probably a human brain can solve, but not this task is too difficult for an LLM. Yeah, because another interesting element of humans is, humans have purpose, humans have self consciousness, and we know the problems that you want to solve, right? The LLMs, if left on their own, they could be solving problems that don't even make sense for the human world, right? So there is a lot of uh, nuances that are still there for humans to solve for. And there are things, and there'll be blurring boundaries where machines tend to get better at certain metrics or certain tasks. But yeah, the larger humanity has still a lot of things to uncover, is what I believe.
By the way, on a lighter note, hi Sumit. Such an interesting comment. Sumit says if you're in Bangalore, you can probably outrun a car in peak traffic.
Yeah,
And that may well be true perhaps of every
yeah.
city in Russia. But thanks for that, Sumit. And a warm welcome to many of our viewers. Hi, Anshuman, Rajesh, Umesh, Jaspal, DK Bakshi ji. Very nice to see you here. Hi, Gaurav. So warm welcome to the show. Puneet, one of the things I'm really curious about understanding from you, and I'm sure many of our viewers are, uh, you were instrumental in the creation of the AI cell itself. And if I
Hmm.
remember our earlier conversation, in fact, I mean, it was an idea that came to you and you took
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
to obviously uh, your
Hmm.
seniors in PwC to
Yeah.
discuss how it might be applicable to the work that PwC does. But
Hmm.
can you start by just explaining where did that insight come from? How did, what was behind that aha moment?
So AI was not new to me. I was playing with AI a lot during my engineering days, and even in my first few years of being part of the emerging tech team. There were a lot of things that we were doing beyond, which were non-generative AI today. But what we had a lot of digital goals, and we were trying to build a lot of products. I came across GPT-2, and I came across GPT-3 models, and I was trying to understand what components of the work that we had wanted to achieve, or the work that we are achieving today, this one large language model has rendered useless. And then when I tried to dig deep, it also rendered useless a lot of tech startups that we were trying to understand and leverage. And a lot of AI efforts were made to solve for some specific narrow problems. These LLMs were able to solve them out of the box in a very democratized way. So that was the aha moment, that we might not need to invest or spend so much time in trying to solve one problem when such a democratized technology is available. So that was the aha moment, and I think that helped us apply this mindset of relooking at things, and as at a broader level understanding how this radical shift in the technology landscape could disrupt things around us.
Can you
And then
give
we
an
started
example, Puneet? Like, what are the sorts of things that, you perhaps found that an LLM at that time when you started this could do far more readily than maybe the tools that you were working on, just so that we understand?
perfect. So I'll give you two examples, and both of the examples are out of projects that I had picked up during my journey at PwC. Back in 2018, we were trying to understand if we could drive more efficiency by creating AI models to during testing of web applications. So let's say there's a designer who's created a wonderful design for a web application, and there's a developer who's built that. Now, rather than a tester coming in to do UI validations, and if the design meets the development, how do we utilize an AI model that can detect all of these components and apply logic to understand if LHS is equal to RHS? uh, we tried to create AI models with a lot of data. We spent a lot of time doing this, and we knew that the journey would to get to a certain threshold of accuracy would at least take 2 to 3 years. So we knew that this was a more R&D project rather than a more commercially valued realization, like a quick value realization projects for us. Next project was around we had a lot of meetings in PwC, and we wanted to understand the insights from each of these meetings. We wanted to do away with taking meeting summaries and meeting notes. So this was a second project, and even for this we were trying to use BERT classifiers and a lot of other tech for capturing these intel. With LLMs, the multimodal nature of LLMs, I was able to solve both of these problems in a record matter of weeks rather than years. And that's what helped me understand the shift in the value realization cycle of AI. I was always interested in AI, but from a business lens. And the reason why it is uh, getting more and more popularity today is the cycle of value realization has shortened with AI projects today, because the availability of LLMs in a democratized way to everybody has given everybody the power, the intelligence, and the compute in a box. So I can utilize this intelligence in a box and apply it to whatever use cases that I come across, and I'm able to get greater amount of accuracy and solve for AI without having to solve for AI.
I remember I was really struck by this in our one of our earlier conversations when you spoke about some problems were solvable in a matter of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, wow, I mean, that is speed because uh, I have no memory of any earlier IT project happening in a, in a matter of weeks. So it was really a realization of how much has changed. Um, Puneet, can you share a little bit about who do you think is the ideal person to be part of an AI COE? What is it that you're looking for when you hire somebody? And the reason I ask this in particular is that one of the places AI is different from maybe some of the other technologies is it's so new. So, you can't do the standard, have you done this in organization similar size, XYZ, and, you just come in and do that here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so, how do you even recruit for your team? Where do you recruit from?
uh, to so with AI evolving at breakneck space, we can't hire for exact specific skill sets. While we have broader, frameworks or broader tools and technology that we can assess candidates on, what we look for in a tech candidate, and I'll split the question into two. One is the tech, the AI influencers, and the AI influenced is the second category. So the AI influencers or the tech candidates, we look for some of the things like agility, right? How quickly the candidate can respond to change. And we have some case studies that we give out to candidates. We change certain um, widely accepted understandings of some things, and we give that to a candidate, and we understand how the candidate responds to certain case studies where we have changed certain fundamental things that he's used to seeing. So how does he respond to change? How can he apply his problem solving skills with a limited set of things that he's given to? So we test this out through case interviews. We test it out through coding exercises. But most importantly, we look for problem solving, critical thinking. That's true for all kind of roles that we hire for the AI COE, and the ability to have to apply technology to solve business problems. So that's one important theme that we look for when we hire candidates for the AI COE.
I'd asked a similar question to another, senior leader, and he had such an interesting response because he said, "I look for people who are interested in science fiction. I look for people who are interested in, in games." And, it's that kind of combination, the ability to use your imagination to think of what is possible, that's really, really helpful.
Yeah. And another interesting thing I personally look for, because I participate in a lot of hackathons, is outside his usual day-to-day work, or his academic work. How has he tried to play with technology and worked on hackathons, worked on projects, worked on his open source contributions? So these are other elements that show a candidate's passion. And with the breakneck, with this revolutionizing technology, we need people who are passionate about it so that they can utilize this power to apply to problems. So we find unique candidates as well, who have demonstrated experience across a lot of things, and who have tried to solve problems very differently as well.
Actually, can you speak about that, Puneet? I know that You and your team participates in a lot of hackathons. Can you speak
Yes.
to the role that that plays in, you know, uh, what I don't want to lead the answers. I'm going to say the role that that plays. What's the role that participating in hackathons, sorry, play in, your journey within the
Yeah.
AICOE?
So I encourage all my team members to participate in a lot of hackathons, and they do. And sometimes we end up getting good. Even we find good candidates when we are participating in hackathons. So that's a good way to spend our weekends. But the premise of participating in hackathons is that we are given about 24 to 48 hours to solve a problem. And in this 24 to 48 hours, we have to come up with a solution. We have to come up with the tech. We have to demonstrate that the tech works. And to do all of this in 24 hours requires agility, requires learning new things, because some of these hackathons have themes, some of these hackathons have very tailored or specific technologies that the participants are allowed to use. So it's a lot of constraints around what you can solve, how you can solve sometimes, and that adds to the level of excitement and the opportunities for people to learn and create something meaningful in 24 hours. And this 24 hours, I can confidently say, if I spend learning about a new technology and reading about it for, let's say, months, versus spending 48 hours in a hackathon, I would learn way more and understand more about the tech framework or the tech that I'm trying to apply at the hackathon way more. So that's a good way to for me to experience new technology and keep at pace with how technology is moving forward. So that's the reason I participate in hackathons. And sometimes I find candidates or people who are participating in hackathons who have tried to build something cool.
And I understand that you won an award as well
Yeah.
for a
No, awards
project you
are yeah, awards are a good way of recognition of all of these things. We specifically There was a corporate hackathon which was conducted by ANZ Bank, where there are a lot of companies participating from 8 different countries. And all the large tech players were there. We chose the theme of securing generative AI because I had started my career in cybersecurity. So that was something that I had built my foundations on when I started my tech career. And I tried to create a security solution for securing Gen AI, systems and applications, and that got selected as the top choice there. And we also that solution also ended up being selected for Google's top 30 AI solutions from the region of APAC, amongst 30,000 entries. So that's been a good solution that we've been fortunate enough to create in one of the hackathons, and now we are creating that as a full-fledged product in BWC.
It's a super amazing story, actually. So, Puneet, one of the things I'm curious about is that when a technology is evolving as fast as AI is, how
Hmm.
do you and people within your team, how do you even stay current? How do you know what's possible today that wasn't possible yesterday?
We have created a very simple way of understanding and playing with technology, because being at PwC, we are amidst people who are AI tech practitioners, who are business folks, and who are specific specialists around certain areas. So what we have tried to do, we have tried to break this technology into Lego building blocks. Whatever new possibilities are there, we classify them into technology patterns that are available as Lego blocks. So if you come across to PwC, talk to people who are non-AI practitioners, they would be talking in terms of the Lego blocks that we've created for them to understand what this tech can do. And it's so fascinating and simple to understand. And people are applying it today. So a lot of meetings today are being driven by people who are not essentially techies, who are talking tech, demonstrating tech, and creating tech very subtly. And this has helped us create AI products across domains with SMEs. And as I was discussing with Jaspreet Bindra, that the new language, the coding language, is English now. So it's since AI is so democratized, it's got everybody to the party, and everybody's building with it today. So simplifying AI for everybody, for us it's worked because of the Lego blocks framework that we have created and the tech patterns. But you know today, even the discussions with our customers, earlier when we used to do tech assignments, tech gigs, the CTO was the primary decision maker and he was in the room. What's changed now, we are engaging with functional heads, we are engaging with the other CXOs, and they are understanding how this technology can change their business, and they're able to take decisions around it. So that's also something that I find has changed over the last 3 to 4 years with technology solutions and technology consulting as a whole.
Actually, that's something I'm super curious about, Puneet. So, you've given us a glimpse into um, who are the kinds of people you recruit, uh, just a little bit about where you might select them from, how do you keep learning. I will ask you in a moment to perhaps say a little more about the Lego framework and tech patterns in a very simple way so that, I
Sure.
can understand and, others who have no technology as a background can understand. And after that, I really want to understand what have you discovered about good ways in which an AI COE can enable business functions to discover potential uses of the technology. Because I think that's one of the areas that a lot of organizations we speak to are curious about. They just don't know how to get started. So, but
Correct.
first, just would love it if you could explain the Lego analogy and the tech patterns in a very simple way so that I can wrap my head around that.
Perfect. I'll start with how the AI COE can influence businesses, because that was the journey that we started on. While initial days, I was trying to convince the leadership at PwC on this new opportunity. I walked into my chief digital officer's room. I told him that this new technology will render a lot of things that we are doing useless. We should definitely understand this and have a all hands call and understand where all this could disrupt whatever we are doing and broadly disrupt what PwC is doing. That started off. We created presentations, but to make this technology more real and give a touch and feel to what exactly we are talking about, we started this one small GenAI lab in a 20 by 20 room. We had a couple of high computers there with high compute GPUs, and we created certain POCs and use cases to demonstrate this. Now, once this was done, people were starting to relate to some of the things that they had seen in the GenAI lab, and going back to say, why can't we do X with the same technology? And that was how the conversations had started. Now, this was the inception of the Lego blocks and the tech patterns. Now we all know that generative AI can do good summarizations. Practically, large language models are large language models, so they can play with languages best. So in our initial days, whatever the capabilities of these large language models were that we understood, summarization, search. Now, search is a very controversial topic across. People say that AI, Gen AI should not be used for search. Some say Gen AI should be used for search. But I've been working with a lot of search teams across large players, and they are today building search products with generative AI, as the core backend rather than just a translation layer on top. So search, summarization, creation of new looking content, all of these were tech patterns that were easier for us to help people understand. And with these, we created Lego blocks. For example, search is a Lego block for us. Transformation is a Lego block for us, and correlating it back with some demonstrable components, we were able to create a picture in the mind of the business user that this is how this tech works. Could I pick up this Lego block and apply it into my scenario? um, uh, we have two products that we are infusing GenAI with: contracts insights and compliance insights. We created a version of that in our GenAI lab, which was more future looking, on things that we were not able to do today in today's products that we had, and how we could do them with generative AI. So a lot of cool things we built out of the GenAI lab are now moving to our products. A very quick example, what we are trying to do with generative AI across, and to give you the context. Um, so we were playing with a lot of data, internal data. We create a lot of proposals, right, as PwC. Now we tried to understand, could we optimize this journey of creating proposals, leverage the collective intelligence of whatever documents we have at PwC, and help a user craft a beautiful proposal. So now this involves search, then this involves summarization, and be applied at the right user experience layer for to help the users. So certain Lego blocks applied to the daily use cases that we were coming across help businesses understand how they can also leverage these blocks into their products, into their world, and understand this technology as a whole, is what I would say, has helped us over the last couple of years. Also, when we talk about AI today, we look at it from three lenses. The first lens is productivity. How can we improve efficiencies across whatever processes that we have today? Is something that we look at from a horizon one, or the first lens use case. Now, the second lens, which is the more interesting lens, is augmentation, where we say that, could we do more with the same exact set of processes, with the same exact set of data? That's augmentation, and how we can use GenAI to do augmentation is the second lens that we look at. The third one is transformation, where we disrupt a particular process or a life cycle, and we try to apply GenAI to remove everything, and disrupt the entire value chain. So these are the three lenses we try to look at for any problem or use case that comes to our desk. And we are trying to build very, very complicated, even decision support systems, which can go and look at all of the data in the context of your problem, and try to find you insights, or help you with insights for you to take better decisions. So there is a whole um, range of complexity with GenAI, but the easier Lego blocks are easier for everybody to understand and replicate in their own worlds, is what I would say.
That's such a good example, Puneet. I love the fact that your starting point seemed to be a little bit of like a show and tell,
Okay.
so that people who are not from a technology background can still begin to see, okay, so this is what it can do, and then how might some of this apply to the work that I do. And I think your Lego blocks as an analogy, it's a super helpful one, by the way. uh, the fact that there are these different functions that the technology can do, and you could combine them in
Mhm.
different ways to solve for different problems. I also love the multiple horizon outlook to it,
Mhm.
um, from productivity to all the way to transformation. Uh,
Mhm.
so, how much of this was at the start all about almost creating a common language,
Mhm.
literacy almost in the organization?
Yeah. So all of this was the exercise that we did to thrash out a common language. We created even AI literacy decks that we floated around, that we gave workshops on to our employees. And one of the first workshops that we ran across PwC, we were surprised. We got about 5,000 people watching us live on that. And this was a PwC India internal Gen AI workshop, and that signified to us the amount of excitement that people have with this new technology, and how open they are to adopt this, and see how it works. So it was a very good journey for us to define a common language, define how the firm can have a common language across a lot of complex topics, and do things at a more unified way. But again, this technology is more art than science, as I like to say it, and everybody has their own interpretations, which leads to even more use cases for us, or solutions for us around the work that we do.
Puneet, our next guest next week is a researcher who studies AI literacy, and the success of the implementation of AI tools and tech platforms in organizations. And I don't want to steal his thunder. He's going to come and explain it in much greater detail. But the reason I reached out to him was that he had discovered in his, you know, what was eventually a peer-reviewed, a very academic paper, that if your senior leaders and even boards had high levels of AI literacy,
Mhm.
you know, not only were you more likely to discover potential applications of the technology, but even your existing projects are going were far more um, what's the right word? Far more helpful, far more evolved. So your
Yeah.
actual product, the products that were created were of much higher quality than those which won. So one of his findings is how AI literacy as a starting point for an organization is
Mhm.
so helpful. And
Mhm.
from what you've been sharing, I can see the link between having an AI, COE like yours, and I'm sure other AI experts, perhaps some of them
Mhm.
externally as well, coming in to create this joint vocabulary, this joint almost mind framework, so
Yeah.
that business leaders can begin to explore potential cases. Because I think, um, I mean, one of the interesting things about AI as a technology is that there's potentially an infinite number of possible
Ye-
uses. So
Yes.
even exploring which ones make sense, it's just it's so interesting.
Mhm.
And in the research that Jaspreet and I are doing with organizations like yours, which are ahead of the curve in AI implementation, it's so interesting because we find that almost all organizations that are ahead of the curve have some things in common.
Mhm.
One is high levels of data literacy in general. Uh, so a certain comfort with using data. They
Mhm.
know the data language. They know the language
Yeah.
of data, and what kinds of problems can be solved using data. Um, but the other is almost a core belief that the way forward is tech.
Mhm.
So search for a tech solution for everything. And I know that when I had interviewed some of your senior partners, I know one of them said this, it was so interesting. He said that before we start any project now, the first thing we do is, okay, how much of this can be done by
Mhm.
AI?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you have any, observations on how the culture at PwC, what enabled um,
Yeah.
the implementation of AI.
So when we touched upon the upskilling journey for PwC employees, we formulated a tiered strategy because the AI means different things to different people. So we cater to different segments. We cater to business leaders very differently than we cater to AI practitioners. So we have a very a beautiful upskilling strategy where we utilized a mix of technology and business upskilling sessions to address these things, and that's helped us, right? Because a lot of uh, people at PwC find more correlation to the things that they're working on. And we did this sectorally, we did this with a mix of tech sessions, business sessions, and application sessions with each other. And with the exposure to the Gen AI lab, so now we see people walking in trying to understand how can it help me in my work today. And that's improving the literacy of the firm as a whole in terms of AI. Coming back to how we are solving for the new things that we do with the AI lens, there's an important element that before we start to build a use case, we do an assessment of that use case on two criterias. The first is, has it been done before? Have we solved for it technically? Do we have a tech pattern that can be replicated to solve this? And that's how it helps us achieve certain things in weeks than years. And the second is we also do a risk assessment of that use case, because um, responsible AI is just as important, because with AI we are opening up a Pandora's box. Whatever And companies today have very well drafted AI policies, but they don't have uh, crafted responsible Gen AI policies, which is slightly different because this is way more powerful, and sometimes we don't realize the risks that are associated with bringing certain use cases to life. So we do these two kind of assessments before we jump on the journey of building. And what I see from our own lens, right, having an AI COE in a consulting setup has helped us in improving literacy across, has helped us do innovation, has helped us have better conversations in the market and replicate some of this for our customers. So, what an AI COE means for a tech first company is very different from what an AI COE means for a non tech company, right? And sometimes it's not even AI. It's a problem solving COE. If there is any problem that you want to solve with technology, I think there should be a small or a center of excellence where you can go to, which could minimize a lot of wastage across the organizations, because a lot of times people are trying to do similar things across and solve for the same exact things. By centralizing it and making it more optimized, I think we can solve a lot more problems, is what I believe. And yeah, so as I was saying, right, companies today are employing this GenAI lab or the GenAI COE setups, not just to become advance in the tech maturity, but they're also trying to see if they can solve their existing problems faster with tech with such a setup. So they bring all of their problems to the COE and ask the specialists, can we do this, or can we solve for this? How quickly can we solve for this? Is this something that we should be investing on? Even a lot of digital transformation goals or roadmaps are shifting for organizations because of this technology that's available. So it's helping everybody with their own ways of working. So it's not a very standardized approach to what happens in a COE. I think the first is obviously, everybody wants to have conversations about how AI can affect their work and what more can they do with AI. And that's the start point where we start to discover what we can do as part of this AI COE for the rest of the firm.
Thanks, Puneet. I love the way of looking at it as like a problem-solving unit. That's such a nice way to look at it. And I have a question and comment from Rajesh. Hi, Rajesh. So Rajesh says, I was earlier in PwC and had a chance to interact with Puneet. He wants me to ask you this question. What are some common challenges organizations face when building AI in-house? And how can they overcome these obstacles to achieve successful implementation?
Okay, so I resonate with this question because this was the exact dilemma I faced about 4 to 5 years back. Building everything in house, AI is very, very resource intensive. It's very, it requires too much investment. But I think the landscape has changed today, with the value realization cycle that I talked about becoming very quick, weeks, and this intelligent compute available as a decentralized force to everybody. um, and even we have given access to this technology democratically to every employee today in PwC, right? So everybody has access to a platform which we call Chat PwC, which is a common platform for everybody to experience this technology firsthand. And we have something built specifically for PwC India, which is called the People Experience Platform. So all of our employees, even for their basic queries around policies, around what they should do to, let's say, apply for a leave which is more than 5 days, is there a policy around it? So their first touch point to everything that they want to do in an
Nice.
organization, we've tried to capture that as part of one platform. So it's their first interaction to AI, and since they utilize this firsthand day in day out, they're able to understand what this technology can do. And regarding with the common challenges, I'll not just talk about PwC but across. um, there's a lot of barriers sometimes with business stakeholders or people to understand that AI can transform your work. And sometimes the definition of what AI can do and what humans can do, the blurring definition is not something sometimes people appreciate. So they want clear use cases on what they should do with this technology. But I was hearing to one of the earnings call of a tech company in India. They said we have trashed out 16,000 use case. With this technology, I think every conversation or every topic can become a use case. And then we don't have a use case first policy. While we do a lot of show and tell, we have a lot of assets, but the intent is to solve problems with this technology. So broadly, focusing on a use case first approach is sometimes a struggle for a lot of companies that I see, and understanding what AI can do and what AI cannot do is also one of the common challenges that the industry is facing today,
That's
because it
so well
is
said. Yeah, yeah,
changing
yeah.
so fast. The definition of what AI can do is changing so fast.
Yeah, yeah. Because I know that when we interview leaders from organizations which are not ahead of the curve, like you, um, one of the first asks is this: who can explain the use cases to us? And that's like, uh, because perhaps for you know several decades that's been almost the way to understand what a technology can do or cannot do. The fact that here the potential is, almost infinite. So you need something more basic than that. What are
Mm.
the like your Lego blocks and your tech patterns almost as building blocks and some show and tell. And then it's about using your imagination to see, okay, so in my context, what would be the most helpful problems, whether it's efficiency, whether it's value discovery, where would it make most sense for us to focus our resources? So
Yeah.
there's another question, Kusumakar. I hope your question was actually answered, but if not, I'm going to ask Puneet once again. He wants an elaboration on the Lego block framework. Is there something that you want to add to what you said earlier, Puneet?
I am not sure how much I'm not sure if it's open sourceable at this moment, but I'll check and I'll try to publish that on my LinkedIn. But broadly, what we have done, we have tried to simplify what AI can do, try to answer that question, and bundled that as part of Lego blocks. So, for example, summarization, retrieval, deep retrieval. We have a mind palace. So, a Lego block, I'll give a quick example. I have a Lego block which is called the Mind Palace. And this was inspired from Sherlock, right? How
Yeah.
Sherlock is able to um, put data and utilize that data when he needs it, uh, and perform complex computations across with the same data. So that's a mind palace Lego block. And just to give you a quick example what it can do, let's say I have a million contracts, not one contract but a million contracts. I need to find out all the contracts that have a certain clause or meet a certain criteria. Now, to run this computation across all the documents is one Lego block for us. So we've simplified it that this can be done with this tech pattern, and this is a Mind Palace Lego block. So that makes it easier for us, for our business people to understand the power of this, and then we are able to build even complex decision support systems with our SMEs in their for their world, for their context, with this Mind Palace Lego block. So I've given you one example, but I'll try to publish some of the Lego blocks on my LinkedIn.
And I mean, if you like, I can share it as well on my platform if you're comfortable with that. So I realize there's one question which DK Bakshiji has asked, which we never got to. He's asking, can AI ever replace natural intelligence? It's a tough one.
Uh, I I think no, because for it to reach natural intelligence, we'll have to articulate natural intelligence first, and that's I think the purpose and the endeavor of humans on Earth, right? What are we here for? What's the purpose of humanity? So if we can answer that question, then probably we can understand how to replicate to solve for that question. So it's more complex, but I feel that for certain tasks that you can articulate, for things that we can define metrics on, probably we can design systems or design machines that can do a better job of competing on that single dimension.
Hmm. Very well said. So where we're talking about one or limited dimensions,
Yeah.
AI could perhaps outperform. It's in the multi-dimensionality and asking some of the deeper questions that
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
natural intelligence seems
Even if you
odd
look
even
at
to say it.
abstract level, if we look at LLMs, right, we are utilizing a lot of data. We have a trillion parameters, but what we are doing for LLMs to work is dimensionality reduction. Now, to just
Yeah.
give you a quick
Yes.
example, if we want to teach an AI model, or if we want a large language model to solve for one task, we are trying to reduce its scope, we are trying to reduce its data set, we are trying to reduce the operations it can perform to a certain context. So we are reducing dimensions for it to perform accurately, but we don't do that with human brain. Human brain is way more powerful without having to go dimensionality reduction.
Ooh, very well said, Puneet. So, with that, we're going to come to the final question we have for today's conversation. Um, how should we as humans adapt to AI as a technology? And it's sort of a philosophical question, but what are your thoughts around that?
I think we should, since we are the ones who have created artificial intelligence, we should use this just as we use calculators, right, to augment the human capabilities. And an interesting, when I was uh, deep into experimenting with this new age technology, and I was getting burned out every day, right. uh, I was having a quick discussion with my dad around this topic, who's not a techie, probably a philosopher, but not a techie, and uh, he said, if we are able to do so many things, right? As you said, we can build solutions in weeks rather than years. The amount of things that we can do in one lifespan, will grow exponentially. So that's a very beautiful thing to look forward to, rather than be afraid of. What we can do in the definition of what we can do in 10 years has changed, and this will continue to change. And I think that should be something that we should look forward to, and utilize AI to augment our abilities to do more in less time.
I
And with
love that.
evolution, hopefully the uh, we'll evolve as well as species, and we'll try to find new dimensions that machines have not solved for. And this, I think, this spiraling race will still be on, even
Wow.
whatever, how many years later.
Wow. Wow. That's a really interesting way to look at it. And I think just recently, over the last few days, I read a quote about how perhaps a better way to look at artificial intelligence is augmented intelligence.
Hmm.
And, that shifts the perspective a little bit from seeing it as a competition versus collaboration,
Hmm.
between the two. And I think that's some of what you are referring to. So thank you
Another
so much. Sorry, go
just
ahead.
I would leave you with one last thing. I'm also experimenting these days with understanding how quantum computing can change our world. Probably a topic for a different podcast for us, but I'll leave you with this one thought. Right, we had designed algorithms to secure to do security of everything. For example, our call today, right? Uh, let's say this is end-to-end encrypted. We have designed algorithms to make sure that this cannot get hacked. But with let's say super fast computers or quantum computers, there is a possibility that somebody can break this encryption and get access to the data. Now, the way we were defining problems which were difficult for machines to solve, we will have to define new problems which become difficult for machines to solve even 10 years from now, to make them secure. So the
Wow.
definition of problems will also continue to evolve, because we have to be ahead of the machines to design for the world technically to live in. So even that paradox we'll have to solve for, but interesting times. And yeah, I'm excited to solve for this.
That is such an interesting problem. What problems? How do we design problems that machines cannot solve for?
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Puneet. I have to say that I've learned so much in our conversation today, right from what it takes to build a successful AI COE. Who are the kind of people you can recruit? How do you keep learning? The role that hackathons have played in your process. Um, Even the fact that you might notice talent at hackathons, and how that sort of gives a window into some of the essential qualities that you're searching for, problem solving, creativity, people who have done something with their own hands, and therefore have that kind of building experience, not just an understanding a tech at a academic level. I also love all that you shared about how at PwC you created the connect between the business functions and the COE, and the fact that you set up you know, a lab, a physical lab, a space where people could come and see, and you did a show and tell, and then so that people were using a common vocabulary, creating this whole framework which would connect with people who are not from a tech background. And I love what you said that today you find people who are business leaders using the
Mhm.
same vocabulary, because we that's such an important part of working with anything new. You need those words, you need something to hang your ideas on, so it gives you those hooks. So I love that whole piece that you spoke about. And of course, all that you shared about how human intelligence and how artificial intelligence, uh, I mean, how are they different? Where is one more powerful than the other? And how could they possibly come together? So thank you so much, Puneet. Really appreciated all that you shared today.
Thanks, Shalini. It was a wonderful talk with you. So looking forward to more conversations like this.
Thanks, Puneet. So, for those of you who are interested in AI and culture as a topic, do follow. We have a series of 6 and perhaps 7 episodes on just this topic. Today is the second episode. We will be speaking both with academics who do research in this area, as well as practitioners like Puneet, who have really been at the heart of AI implementation within their organization, so that we get both sides of both sides of the coin. If you stay tuned, also take a look at my newsletter, Eyeing the Future. The last several articles have been on what we're finding in the research project that we're doing on AI and culture. And with that, have a lovely rest of the day and a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks, everyone.